a very special place. We're talking stories, taking it back down memory lane. So sit down, relax as we chit and chat. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, about the kids these days and where they may go. And the reasons why we're proud to call this island home. Here in Hawaii.
Aloha, and welcome to the show. When my wife and I came up with the idea for Here in Hawaii, a big part of our mission was to share stories on all of the islands, not just Oahu. So for our first season, we spent a week on Maui interviewing people that we got connected to through friends and friends of friends. We originally didn't set out to make an episode about Lahaina, but it kind of came together organically through the people that we met. Now, this isn't a typical episode for us, and everything about it was hard and uncomfortable, but we felt like it was important and that we wanted to try and hold space for people to share. This might also be hard to watch, so we want to let you know that there's a part about 15 minutes in where some of our guests talk about their experiences on August 8th. We're so grateful to all of our guests for trusting us with their stories, and we'd like to dedicate this episode to all of the people of Lahaina.
What brought us here 15 years ago was a work opportunity. Maui was exciting to us because, first of all, again, I love the Big Island. It's where I was born and raised, my wife too. But it just seemed a little faster paced than the Big Island. And I think because everything's closer, Big Island's so logistically, everything's so far, it takes so long to get everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't notice that when you live there. But when you come to something like Maui, you realize, you know, like here, driving out to the west side, everyone's like, what's so far? That's nothing on the Big Island. That's like you can do that 3 times.
Born and raised on Maui, I actually grew up in Hana.
Oh, okay.
And I tell everyone there's nothing like a childhood in Hana. So,
How come?
it's a small town. My graduating class had 32 of us.
Oh, wow.
So it's very small, K through 12, all in one space, but it's so connected to the outside. There's no tall buildings. It's one of the most family-orientated little towns that like kind of preserved our culture even today.
I actually came to Oahu in 2006 after a game of dice with some college friends that
Wait, what?
landed 4 of us here.
What?
Yeah, we decided we all wanted to move somewhere together, me and my 3 roommates.
Yeah.
And one very late night in Boston, just prior to graduation, we all picked a place and decided that we would play dice, and whoever won, we were all going to buy one-way tickets for a year. And of course, for most of us, that year has turned into almost 18 years. And then I started with Dukes almost right away. I met my wife my first day. She trained me. She has no recollection. I remember it like it was yesterday. And 6 years ago, we moved our family over here.
I want to say maybe in 2008, right? We had that financial or global, crash.
Oh, okay.
To whereas I was working as a bellman at the Manalani Hotel, and then we went from, I want to say maybe 18 bellmen down to 3.
Oh.
Yeah, because no one was traveling. Everybody was, still a little bit weary. At the time, my father-in-law was living here on Maui, and he said, "Hey, you know what? I saw an ad in the paper in regards to police officers being hired here on Maui." So I moved here with full intentions on becoming a cop. Thank God. That never went through because now I'm in this musician lifestyle.
I'd done a number of different things in all kinds of airplanes, all kinds of helicopters, and then I grew up watching Hawaii Five-0. I grew up watching Magnum PI, right? And I had gotten to the pinnacle of my career. I got hired by Continental Airlines. That happened on a Monday. On Thursday of the exact same week, there was a company that had a tour operation on Maui with helicopters called Alex Air. And I was working for them part-time on the mainland when I was there. Thursday, they offered me a job to come to Hawaii and fly helicopters. Well, I watched Magnum PI Friday night. I call up my friend who also had a start date on Monday at Continental. I said, I'm going to Hawaii. I'm taking that tour helicopter pilot job. I said, what are you, crazy? What?
Actually, I grew up, you know where Kamaki Toyota is on Wildlife?
Yeah.
Right there. I came here every summer because my grandparents were here, because my mom is from Maui.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had that deep root connection too in Lahaina. The first job they gave me was transportation facilitator. Fancy name for van driver on Sunday.
I was going to say, that's what it sounds like.
That was my first job at the Corps. And then they made me Corps assistant. One day, the officers there, they were being transferred. The divisional commander said, here's the keys. Tomorrow you open up. So that's how I started Lahaina Salvation Army.
So this is something that every pilot does, whether it's an airplane or a helicopter guy. We do a pre-flight inspection daily. It's general overall condition, security of the aircraft. We have oil, we have fuel, everything's like it should be. And it just takes a few minutes every day. But this is something that we won't be concerned as the day progresses. If I get a call, I can literally be in the air in 5 minutes, right? You can see this thing's a little beat up.
Really? It looks so good.
Well, we haven't had a chance. Look, there's fingerprints, there's dirt. It's not a nice look, but we've just had a 15-day fire. Hawaii is unique because the state doesn't have their own helicopters, the county doesn't have their own, the electric company doesn't have their own, the cops don't have their own. So they've hired outside vendors like myself. And so I've gotten to know 3 generations of policemen, firemen, electric company workers, state workers, county workers. It's pretty cool.
Doesn't matter where you came from, or what you're from, or what your belief is. We take you in no matter what. We take you in at face value. That's why for me in Lahaina, it was, we took care of all the homeless. 98% of my congregation, those 40, 60 people that came every Sunday was homeless. We tried to keep them off the street, so we had Monday night was movie night, Tuesday night was game night, Wednesday was praise and worship, Thursday was softball, Friday night was movie night.
Knowing that COVID was like a once in a generation type of experience and that it was so early on in your tenure here, what was that like?
I remember there being lines of people outside. At that time, it was the drive-through was the thing.
Yeah.
Everyone did those drive-throughs. It was mass box distributions, and they were doing 600 cars in several locations all over the island. And at that time, there was nobody was going to work. It was everyone was home, but we were deemed essential. And I thought, wow, we are essential. Just reprogramming my mind to think of the food bank as an essential part of our communities.
What did you learn about your community through that experience?
I learned that our food system is fragile. I learned that our community relies on each other.
Did it almost feel like it took you back to when you were living in small town in Hana and how everyone took care of each other and treated like family? Here you are in this big city, yet I think that's our spirit of aloha. It's not just in Hana, and maybe it takes big things like that for us to remember that that's inside of us, but it is. Before we get back to Lahaina, we wanted to put a spotlight on Malama Ikeola, a community clinic serving the island of Maui.
So Malama Ikeola is a federally qualified health center, so it provides services to the community at large, regardless of the ability to pay for the service.
The target population is, of course, our Pacific Islanders, our marginalized population, people who English is not their first language, those who are not U.S. citizens. We see all walks of life, and I think that's what makes me so proud about Malama, because we don't care the package that these patients come in. They have a need, we're gonna meet those needs, and if for some strange reason we can't meet those needs, we'll find someone that will.
With the street medicine program, we're trying to bring the care to where people are and meet them where they're at, as they say. We have our blue van. We'll go to places that we've seen there are unhoused folks. We'll park the van, and we have a backpack, and we can kind of amble around. We'll approach folks, say, hey, we're from a health clinic. Anything you need checked out by a doctor?
So we were working with this one gentleman, and he's from Lahaina. So we were trying to inspire him to go back home because the family wanted him to come back, but he always used to tell us that he doesn't want to burden his family. He has nothing to offer them. And then one day, this other lady from another organization, she came up to us. She said, hey, I see this person lying down near Ross's. So we said, being the people we are, we're always checking on everybody. We went and we saw him, and we were like, what happened? You know, what's going on? And the first thing he told me is, you have a cup of water? And I said, I don't, but hang on. So I just ran across to 7-Eleven. I could see he was pale, and I came back. And while I was gone, my wife was talking with him, and she encouraged him to go back home, finally. So he agreed. So the next day, we set up everything, and then we got him to the ferry. So he was still immobile. So I wheeled him onto the ferry, took him to his chair, helped him into the chair. 2 years ago, we went to Aloha festivals on Lanai. I go, oh my God, he came over hugging us, running. I was like, that guy couldn't walk. I put him on in a wheelchair. Own place. He's got Social Security now. He had all his grandchildren. He was dancing to the music. We were like, oh. And he said, you know, I love you folks for what you did for me and helping me to realize that family is everything. And you know, that was so rewarding, and we were just high-fiving each other, me and my wife.
We live in the very community that we serve, and I think that's most important.
I see them in the stores. It's wonderful because they're buying stuff and they're loving life, and they're saying, still doing good, you know, and they'll come up to you and give you a hug and tell you, hey, it's still doing good, hey, right on.
Whenever something impacts our community, whether it's on a small scale or a big scale, Malami Kiola will be there. If I were to show you where our previous clinics were, it's not the building, it's the people. It's the people that's in it where the magic begins. Okay, now we gotta stop because I can cry. But it is the people. And it's the staff, they're dedicated, they're loyal, and it's the patients that come through here because they trust us. And because they trust us, we're gonna deliver.
Lahaina is a special place where it's community knitted, where, you know, if you were there for a while, I don't care if you came from the mainland or you came from Oahu or wherever, and you was vested in this, it was your town.
So I was off the 8th of August. I was home, and Pete and Mikey were here. The wind was really blowing that day, right? Pete had called me because we had a fire in Olinda, which was the first fire on the 8th. It started at like 2 a.m. And they wanted our helicopter, Air One, the fire helicopter, they wanted it up at Olinda at first light. So Mikey took off in Air One, which is the helicopter you guys saw me pre-flighting. He took off in Air One and got up to Olinda to pick up Chris Sakamoto, the chief at the time on the incident. And came into a hover and said the airspeed was on 80 miles an hour at a hover. They realized they couldn't do anything, right? There's no way. It was traumatic as hell. He was terrified to be there, and let alone, there's no way we're going to strap a bucket on the bottom of us. We can't even fly a helicopter, let alone with something suspended below us. So that's when he told the fire department, it's like, hey, we can't do anything. You know, which is horrible for a guy that's the rescue guy, but we still have to have the can or no can, right? So this is can or no can. It's real simple. So it was no can.
That morning, Tuesday, like every Tuesday morning, we go to the food bank. So at 5:15, we left Lahaina Corps. me and this other volunteer. And we went to Kaului Food Bank. We did our food bank shopping, and then we heard there was a fire, but that was the fire, the first fire, the top one. So then we came back and we went go look, but the fire was already out already. But the power lines were down, so it didn't have power, and it was kind of windy. And so we was at the core after that, and we just was waiting to hear, another fire again, here we go. We might have to do maybe some dinners, or maybe the fire guys need water or whatever. We'd do that, So we was all just sitting there talking story, and then all of a sudden, the winds picked up, our tent blew away, and all the trees were falling.
And then shortly after that, we had this fire in Lahaina. So Pete responded over there, and the winds were just terrifying. He landed, and they just wanted him to stay there, but he's like, I don't know, man. And so he was sitting there on the ground, helicopters running, and he saw this like dust devil coming down the hill, and then this thing just went right through him, and he was just like, hey, you guys, I'm out, I can't go. In the meantime, Mikey, who had been up at Olinda, had flown over there in Air One, and he couldn't do anything. And they had talked amongst themselves and were like, hey, we can't do anything. It's too windy. So they both came back the long way home, came back, and then they sat here, and I had talked to them periodically throughout the day. And so they've got the radio, and they've got it tuned up so I can hear what's happening. And I'm looking from my house, and I can just see the smoke billowing up from Lahaina. I'm upwind of Lahaina. I'm in Kapalua, and I can just see it billowing up and over. And I was like, holy crap, man.
We looked outside, and we could see the flume of smoke. That was on Lahaina Luna Road, which is 3 streets away from us. Wow. So, we said, it's way down there. So we're not worried. In about 15, 20 minutes, the next thing I hear, the fire is on Dickinson Street. It's on the middle street from us. And then next thing you know, it's in the field by Prison Street. And then next thing you know, wow, it was like, from me to the road, the fire was in the back of our house. Wow. So, me, a crazy guy, right? I trying to find him with a garden hose. I said, no. Once the roof and the tall trees caught fire, I said, I'm not gonna win. So I just let go, and then we went out in the back. And I guess kind of at that point in time, I kind of said farewell to this place. Wow. I knew it was gonna burn. It was already burning the house already.
Power's out, cell phones don't work, nothing works. I don't have a radio, so I can't hear anything. And I'm just in the blind, right? But the wind is just like, the wind is just smoking, and I can only see what I can see.
Then we got everybody. We jumped in the cars, whoever was around, and we went up the street to the shelter. It was like, an open field. Because, the fire was coming down the hill behind us. So we better go. So we went up onto the bypass road. Then we was watching it. Wow. That was the eye-opener. Cars were stretched both sides from end to end. You couldn't see the end. And, the fire was just roaring on the bottom. So then I called Captain Steve. I said, the core is gone. And I guess he thought, what I meant by what the core is gone. Yeah. I said, it's burned, it's gone. So I said, we're going to head to Kaului if we can open up the core so we can at least have a place to stay and relax. That night, I didn't sleep. I was thinking, what's going to be our next step?
So I get up early. I never slept. I get out of bed, and I'm driving down, and I get onto Honopilani, and the whole place is lined with cars and people. I get to the fire station in Napili, and I just double park somewhere, and I go in there, and it's just people are burned and emotional and scarred, and It reminded me of a MASH movie or something where they're just triaging. They're taking the most critical and getting them to the ambulance, getting them to the medevac helicopter, getting them to Kahului, to Maui Memorial. Pete went home and came back and slept here, so he was available first light. So he flies over, picks me up. I get in the helicopter. I come back over here with him, and then I get here, and then the chiefs are here. And like I said, I don't know anything about Kula. I don't know anything about Kihei. And we're heading to Lahaina. I take off. I see I go, what the hell? Everything's on fire. And then we got to Lahaina. So many friends that have businesses there, and their houses are there, and their lives are there, and everything they have is there. And it's all gone. And to see the loss of life and how people passed and where people ended up was probably, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. And I've been to some horrible tragedies, but this was right here. And then all we could figure out is, what are we going to do to save what we have here? And so I'm like, well, there was another fire that part of that fire had expanded to the kind of the northwest side of Lahaina, and it had the ability to come up and around the whole top of Lahaina Luna and burn the whole rest of the town down. So by the time we had realized that, we already had 2 helicopters over there that had taken off after I had taken off, and I said, you guys, we gotta get this fire out that's heading towards the upper Lahaina Luna.
First thing we're gonna have to do is get ready to feed the people.
Wow.
You know, because that's what we do, you know. So I said, you know, what do we got here to cook? You know, we found chili, we found beef stew, we found rice, found corn. We said, okay, we're gonna start making lunches already, you know, so we can get to the Baldwin Gym, and we can get to upcountry. And so he said, okay, there's 800 here, there's about 500 there. So we just started plating, and we just started, okay, you take this much, you take this much, and you just go. And that's how we did the first feeding.
So we got Lahaina fires out, went to Kula, got Kula out, went to Olinda, which Olinda took 3 weeks to get out. And then we went to work for the electric company.
Like I said, you know, I lost everything, but I didn't lose my life. You know, we knew all those people that had died in the fire. You know, I even did a couple of the services for them. But it was, you know, it was tough because, you know, knowing them deeply, you know, they used to come to church, or there was one of the homeless people, you know.
I couldn't stop crying. I cried every night. Still crying. Cried every night for 2 months. And my good friend Laird came on August 16th, which was my birthday. He didn't know it was my birthday. He showed up and stayed with me for like 5 days, and was really instrumental in getting me through this. He's a wonderful man.
I think the hard part was the hotel thing. It was interesting. We started off at Maui Beach Hotel, and they said, okay, your stay is up, so we're gonna have to move you. Okay, not a problem, you know what I mean? I was busy anyway, so I only went there, shower, sleep, and come right back. So they moved us all the way to Four Seasons Hotel. Then we did Kihei in a condominium, 2 days. Then we had to move again. Not knowing where you're going is the hard part.
Yeah.
So I understand what those people were going through, you know, when you know, you got a family, plus you got your kids, and then I'm telling you, in 12 hours, you got to pack your stuff, get out of this hotel room, and drive all the way to Kihei. That's really burdensome on somebody's mind, you know. So I try to tell them, look, at least they're giving you a place to stay. You got a roof over your head. Kids not sleeping on the beach or sleeping in the car. For now, we're just gonna have to just go with the flow, you know.
My experience is pales in comparison to most of them. By the grace of God, we did not lose our home. All of our belongings in the interior was condemned. It's a severe smoke damage and some damage to the outside of the house. But you know, we got to go throw our stuff away, and a lot of people never got to have that moment of closure or that option to save something that meant something to them. So really what my family and I have been focused on is trying to do what we feel like is best for our kids, and that was getting them off island a couple of weeks after the fire and enrolled in school on Oahu, and you know, that wasn't an option for a lot of people. So I hate to repeat myself, but we really are sort of like the luckiest family in Lahaina.
You know, when the dust kind of settled and we started fixing the electrical lines, on the windward side of every single house, every single shingle had blown off. So it was nothing but wood exposed. All the way from Oluwalu to Lahaina, every roof on the windward side had no shingles. And that's what happened. I mean, all these houses were superheated with so much wind and oxygenated wind in such an intense fire. It just took one little spark to ignite that. It was so superheated already. And to hear my friends that were the firemen that almost didn't make it and were saved by the rookie that came through in the last minute, came through and commandeered the police vehicle and got them out of the fire and saved everyone. And what a man.
A funny story, we had a dog and a cat. So the cat ran away while my wife was walking to the car. So the cat ran back into the house. I couldn't find the cat for the life of myself. But then, you know, I said, hey, he's a survivor, she's gonna make it. So we went and we left. And then maybe about, it was 3 weeks later. Yeah, it was 3 weeks later. Our grandson called me. And he said, you know what I got? I said, what you got? He said, I got Maisie. I said, no way. Oh yeah, the Humane Society called me. And they got it, you know, with the tag, because it was under him, because that was actually his kitten that we, you know, they bring everything to grandma's house. Well, the lady that dropped him off said she found the cat scratching at the door at Maui Beach Hotel. That's where we were staying in the beginning, the first couple weeks. We don't know how the cat got from Lahaina to over here.
Yeah, how far of a distance is that?
That's 23 miles.
Oh my gosh.
Over the Pali.
Wow.
So we don't know if somebody picked her up, she hitched the ride. So that was, you know, like one of the miracles that happened.
Yeah.
So now she don't go too far from the house now.
Yeah. Let's take a break to meet some other folks on Maui. First, we'll stop by Rel's Kitchen for another segment of Bites on a Budget. And then we'll head on over to Haiku to meet the 2023 Hawaii State High School Rodeo Queen, Malie.
Aloha mai kako, my name is Rel and welcome to my kitchen where I like to share all my favorite Hawaiian and local recipes. And today we'll be making Mongolian beef, quick, easy, and perfect for even your pickiest of eaters. So first step, we're gonna prepare the beef. You're gonna get flank steak. If it's not already sliced, you can slice it yourself. And you're gonna put that into the bowl. And to that, you'll add some cornstarch. Toss to combine and set this aside. Now let's make the sauce. We're gonna start with some garlic, and then we're gonna mince up some ginger. Get yourself a bowl, and into the bowl, you're gonna put your shoyu, brown sugar, garlic, and ginger. and mix until well combined. Now we're gonna cook the beef. You'll set your skillet over high heat and use your cooking oil of choice. This is vegetable oil. Go ahead and add that in. And now for the beef. And you'll wanna spread it out into an even layer and cook that just until brown. Flank steak works great for this recipe, and if you slice it across the grain, it gets really soft and tender and you don't have to cook it for super long. All right, it's nice and brown, so what we're gonna do is take it out. Again, remember, it does not have to be cooked all the way through at this point because we're still gonna cook it in the sauce. So that sauce that we made earlier, we're gonna go ahead and pour that in. And you're just gonna cook that until it thickens slightly. Then cook your beef through until the tenderness that you like and the sauce has thickened. And that's how you make Mongolian beef. Give this recipe a try and let me know what you think. Enjoy!
My name is Malie. I am 18 years old and I live in Haiku, Maui. When I was 9, I started riding horses.
So how did that get introduced to you?
Right below my grandparents' house, there was a neighbor and she had horses. And I was like always so fascinated by it, and my papa used to do rodeo and stuff. So then that kind of just like sparked something inside me, and so for years I like bugged my parents and I was like, can I get a horse? Can I get a horse, please? And then actually right up the street from here is an arena, and that's where I actually started. So Kaupukalua was where I started like my rodeos and everything, and that's where I started practicing, and that's like my home arena now.
What was it about it that you were just like so fixed on?
I think just everything like rodeo really like to me was super cool, and like as a kid I was like, oh my gosh, like look at all these cowgirls, like they look so fancy with like all their like bedazzled outfits, and they're so pretty, and like as a kid I loved unicorns. So that was like the closest thing I could get to a unicorn.
Have you ever dressed up your horse with a unicorn?
She wasn't a fan of it. I had to take it off like 2 minutes later.
So before you got your horse, was your papa still pretty active in rodeo?
He actually stopped like when my mom guys were little, and then when I like really wanted to do it, he's like, oh shucks, like maybe I should do it again.
So it's been kind of like a special bonding experience for both of you, huh?
Yeah, and it's super special because we're together like all the time, and like we team rope together, and he's taught me everything that I know. So we're super close. I think when I won Miss Hawaiʻi High School Rodeo Queen, he was like super proud of me, and he came with me to nationals to like help me just to watch like modeling and like speeches, and that's like not his thing at all. Like he would never be sitting there watching that if it wasn't for me, but he was just there to like support me and like watch me, which was like super special.
What was that experience like?
I think nationals was like the greatest experience of my entire life.
Yeah?
And I had no idea that the National High School Finals Rodeo is the biggest rodeo in the entire world contestants-wise.
Oh, wow.
And I've never like done something like that and like be like in the same places as so many people from like all around the world who like love the same thing that I do.
I mean, you've done so much already. What do you want to do for the future?
I actually like starting off like I wanted to do like forensics and like CSI, so I actually went and did the Maui Police Department CSI camp one summer. So I did that, and I was like, okay, but I also like the idea of being a first responder. So I was like, okay, maybe like an EMT would be pretty cool, and I like wasn't too sure about it. But then when the Lahaina fires happened, like and the hospital was just like super overflowed, they started sending patients over to War Memorial. And my mom has a friend that works in the ER, and so she called her. And my mom's also a nurse. And so she was like, oh, like we need help, like we need wound care, like we need nurses, we need people down here like ASAP. And so my mom's like, all right, I'm coming. And I was like, can I go? Like, can I be helpful? Like, I'm not doing anything at home. Like, I might as well. It was like me, my mom, her friend, there was a lifeguard, and there was like another EMT. And that was like the first people there. And it was just us. And there was like a bunch of people who like needed wound care, like head to toes. Like, it was gnarly. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like jumping in, like doing all this stuff. And then I ended up staying over at War Memorial and working for 10 hours straight. And it felt like 10 minutes. And I absolutely fell in love. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, all right, I want to be an EMT. I want to be a paramedic. Also, I got this comment a lot from like people who like know that I do rodeo and everything. They're like, you can like think really fast. Cause like with rodeo, you have to make like crucial like decisions really fast. Like just the slightest like change can like save your life. So like be able to like think really fast and like on your toes helps. So like with all those things combined, people are like, bro, like you got this.
When you stand in Kahului, it doesn't seem like anything kind of really happened, right? You look out, you see the West Maui Mountains, Haleakala, still, everything's still the same.
Right.
But just over that mountain, it's not.
When we heard that there was a fire, we thought, okay, we're gonna go into disaster response mode. We've done COVID, we could do it.
Yeah.
But the fire is so unique in where our own personal families and friends were affected.
Yeah.
I felt like COVID was a global issue, so we were all in the same boat, but this was, it felt personal.
Yeah.
You know, it just felt personal. The day of the fire, our own staff members were talking about the fire is at the house next door, you know, and then we had employees there, our shed is blowing because the winds were so high, and we still have friends that don't have homes. And I remember the next morning, we all got to work. It was very solemn and quiet because we had to just collect our thoughts. You know, when we got texts that Salvation Army was gone and Kupu'ohi was gone, which is the apartments right above here. We weren't sure what to think because we also didn't know. And at the time there was no cell service, so we couldn't call people. We couldn't check on our family. And we had a staff member sitting in the meeting almost at tears because she still didn't know where her sister-in-law was. And first thing we did was, how's everybody doing? And she almost burst into tears because she's like, I'm not doing good. So I think we had to grow some skin really quick because we knew the community needed help. Yes, we're dealing with it too, but we gotta keep going.
I'm in finance, right, in banking, and that's a very, anything related to any kind of money, that's a very personal thing for people.
Yeah.
We didn't realize, especially since I work out in Kahului, we didn't realize how many of our customers lived out on the west side until they all started calling in. We had members who had come in and you know, they're distraught. They don't know what to do. Some of them, you know, they weren't even able to get back in the house to grab their wallets or their purses.
Right.
Some of them, they didn't have ID. And you know, and again, you talk about relationship, you can talk about getting to know your members and your customers. Some of them, we know them.
Yeah.
Like we, not just personally, but we know who they are.
Yeah.
And in building that. And so it's like, hey, come, what do you need? We'll help get you set up, right?
Yeah.
We get a little robotic. Like this is what we do. The pounds come in, we load the trucks, the pounds go out.
Yeah.
But we had families running into our warehouse in Wailuku. And we usually don't do it that way. We only work with agencies. So they'll run in, and we knew it was a fire, but we're just programmed that way. And we're like, sorry, you can't be in here without shoes. It's a safety issue. And they're like, I lost my shoes in the fire. And then we're just like, oh my gosh. Well, we're thinking, yes, and can you guys help me? I have nothing. So we did, and we just immediately go back into our human, this is what we do, our mission, and started giving them food. And I think we had to realize that this is different. We can't just rely on our normal practices. This is disaster. So when aunties and uncles come with their pickup trucks, because they're headed to Lahaina and we needed more food out here, we loaded them up. We're like, we have food, take it out.
I think it was only until 2 weeks later did I finally got a report from one of our staff members like, well, today was the first time. I go, first time for what? The first time we didn't cry with anybody today. It's part of the healing, right? They come in, they start to tell their story. We don't ask because, you know, we don't know until they tell us what happened. Yeah. And then you gotta sit there and you gotta hear the story because it helps them kind of, you know, process and heal from that.
We relied on our food banks in Kauai, Big Island, and Oahu, and they came through. They sent employees when we needed it. They sent support staff for our admin. I think we couldn't have done it without them.
The part that was overwhelming is most of everyone's attitudes were amazing. Better than us. They're telling us the story. We're getting sad and whatnot, but their attitude, the gratitude of being alive and you know, hey, one foot in front of the other, and that kind of the spirit, that was overwhelming. It was really amazing to see. And to see that kind of, you know, in the people that have been through the worst, you know.
Our former assistant general manager is now the general manager at Hula Grill, Kanapali. And her name's Amber. She's absolutely wonderful. Her and her husband George lost their home. The next morning, I was driving through Napili, and I saw Amber with a refrigerator truck out behind the fire station in Napili, serving burgers and whatever else their restaurant had gotten into that truck to whoever needed to eat it. And not 12 hours before, had fled her home and lost everything. That's Lahaina.
The people helped the people. And that's why we had those partnerships with families that just put up tents in front of their homes so that others could get food. That's what makes us so special. It's the people. You saw farmers, you saw like Maui Nui venison, all of them donating their product that they need to sell, but they thought, no, it's for Lahaina, it's for upcountry, and people are in need, and we're gonna help our own.
Rhonda got it on social media, bring whatever you can from Costco, and we were picking up 1,200-pound loads of food and supplies with our helicopters, and we were flying them to the west side.
I think that's what makes Hawaii special, especially Maui being such a smaller island, a neighbor island. Everyone knows sometimes that's it. Our community is where it's got to come first. That's where it's all got to come from first. Not just the stuff, but the heart of it all, right? Just, hey, we're here, right?
I received a truckload of food on the Wailuku side. This must have been a week and a half after the fire. At the time, we were so busy, we almost wanted to tell people stop bringing food because there were so much donations coming over the water, through our front door. We were inundated with stuff and we wanted a break. Anyway, so they come. And then when I asked, where'd you get this from? It looks brand new. She said, oh, I got it from Costco. And I said, are you visiting? She's like, no, I lived in Lahaina. And I said, were you affected? Are you guys okay? She said, we lost our house. And I was almost burst into tears. I think I did. And I just tried to write the donation receipt so I wouldn't break down. And I said, why would you do that? And why did I ask that? It just came out. And she said, it's the only way I can heal. And I was just hugged her because that's all I could think of doing. And she knew that I couldn't get a single word out by that point. But that lady changed my week, maybe even my life, because I will always remember that.
It was really healing to do the flower drop when all of Lahaina came together and thousands of people on surfboards. What mattered is that we were all there. And to fly around, have my shaka going on out the door and 20 flowers flying out and everybody chanting and throwing water and all the boats, all the people, and for a moment, everybody felt really good.
We officially reopened September 5th, and the only reason that we opened was for our West Maui community. It was, I think for a lot of people, going and dining in a restaurant was a slice of normalcy.
He called me and he said, hey, you know, I have some thoughts on reopening the restaurant. And he just wanted to get my feedback on, you know, what I thought. Weeks prior to that, I had spoken with a lot of my friends who had lost everything. And the common denominator amongst them all was, man, it's tough just sitting here, you know, and sitting in it.
Yeah.
If we were employed, or if we, you know, if we had our jobs back, or, you know, it would then at least remove 8 hours of sitting in it. And so I let him know that, and as soon as I said that, he said, all right, big guy, we're going back to work. Can you start next week? I said, boss, I'll be there tomorrow.
Did any of the staff share with you their thoughts as far as having that opportunity to come back and work?
You know, some people, understandably so, were not ready.
Right.
Some people weren't ready to potentially speak to somebody, such as a guest that wasn't from the Lahaina area, or maybe had questions and didn't quite know the right way to approach their empathy or curiosity. So if somebody wasn't ready to come back to work, there was zero pressure. If you were, and a lot of our employees here are from the Honokawai area, and were physically unaffected as far as their living situation, but lots of people that lost family members and so much more. Yeah, if you were ready to come back to work, we were ready to put you to work.
Nick was, you know, at the forefront of reopening, you know, of Lahaina. And then all of a sudden, you know, restaurants started seeing like, wow, you know what, Duke's is open, and, you know, maybe we should, you know, because I think everybody were, you know, they didn't want to be, like you said, insensitive.
Yeah.
But because I had that, you know, that input from my friends who have, you know, lost and live in Lahaina, and said that they wish they could go back to work, then he took that and said, okay, you know what, maybe we'll do this, and if we get backlash, we get backlash. But there wasn't any backlash.
This is coming out of what we felt is needed, at least through the recovery period, because it'll be at least 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. And we needed a space that's our own, that we can stop and put food in here. So if anything were to happen again, Lahaina's completely cut off. We need a space on this side. So we're trying to think long term. So that's why the space for this warehouse. We want to make sure that they have water. We want to make sure we're not having to truck over the pulley.
Yeah.
Food is here. If we have bodies here, we can always be of service to this side. But then we opened the market. That is something new for us. We've never done it like this before. It's always through community partnerships, but this is direct service, straight to the community. So they can come in to our food bank, but we call it the market, and they can grab whatever they need. We're trying to instill a sense of commitment, dignity, all of that back into our community, because I feel like they lost everything. So we're gonna start somewhere.
When you told me it's almost been a year, it kind of caught me off guard, because it doesn't feel that long.
It doesn't feel. It's been almost a year, but it's still, we could remember things like yesterday.
Yeah.
You know?
There is a better plan. And I think that, you know, eventually we're gonna get to that point. I don't know when. I mean, I'm glad that they're doing the modular homes, they're doing all that stuff now. You know, they built Camp Third in what, 90 days? They built a school in 90 days, you know? So I see the progress, you know, that's moving forward. I see the plan, you know? But, you know, I don't think Lahaina itself, the main town, is gonna be back really soon.
That's the golden question. Is it getting better?
Yeah.
And that's a hard question to answer, because that can mean so many different things. You know, how do you even recognize what better is when something has been so unprecedented and so big and tragic on a long-term level? You know, if getting better were like a line in the sand, or like a horizon, we're not even where we can even see that yet. So things are getting better as far as progressing, but the idea of, are you over some kind of a hump? I don't think it's there yet. There's still healing that has to happen. there's still just this, wow, you know, the reality that's still hitting everybody in different phases. You have people that have kind of moved on, got other properties, found places to live. You have others who just maybe got out of the hotel just recently. Others who are still trying to figure all of that out.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining at all. I've got nothing to complain about by comparison, but I've been living apart from my family for almost an entire year, and they're returning next week, Thursday. That feels like the bookend for me.
I think families are taking it day by day. You know, I can't speak for all the families, but the ones I have spoken to, they still feel unsure.
Yeah.
They still feel uneasy, even about the water, about where they're gonna live. So I feel like moving forward, the best thing we can do is show them that we're committed and we're not going anywhere. And if everything around them is still not solidified, we will be here.
I would like to just see a sacred place set aside in Lahaina for the sacrifice and loss of everyone. You know, it touched this whole island, it touched this whole state, it touched the nation. You know, it's a little different though when you're here and you feel it and you see it and you're a part of it.
The things that the community and the people of Lahaina have done for one another, for each other, oh my gosh. My brain can't wrap around the immense, you know, struggle that these guys have had to go through, and yet they wake up every morning like me with a smile on their face, and you know, they go and do their jobs, they take care of their families. You know, these people have restored my faith in people, in the human spirit, in humanity, you know, everything. I cannot say enough for people of Lahaina. They're amazing.